Welcome to the Modernization 101. My name is Janet Lalonde, and I work for Payments Canada as a director in the Modernization program. My primary area of responsibility is, sorry, just let me, is to deliver on the enhancements to our AFT batch system, electronic batch system, and also to ensure the delivery of, or the implementation of ISO 20022 messages across the payment schemes. So really my objective here today is just to give you an overview of Payment Canada's modernization program, why we're doing it, what it will deliver, and what it means to you. So I think it's safe to assume that most of you know that Payments Canada is embarking on some sort of a modernization journey. I think it's been mentioned enough times so far today that you're probably clued in. But it really is it's about more than just upgrading our systems. Of course, that's a very important piece of what we're doing. But when you look at modernization more broadly, it's about creating a platform for innovation that our members and stakeholders and the Canadian public can build on. So before I dive into what that looks like and where we are in the journey, I want to take a moment to tell you a little bit more about us. For those of you who aren't really familiar with Payments Canada, although you're at our conference, so I hope you should be, but we're formerly the Canadian Payments Association. We run the systems and the legal framework that underpin the payments of financial institutions and their customers. We're involved behind the scenes in the vast majority of day-to-day Canadian commerce. I think Amanda Lang this morning referenced the $3 million per second figure that passes through our systems. And that's pretty significant, and especially when you think about it in terms of, sorry, multitask. When you think about it in terms of sorry, I lost my spot. So yeah, so when you think about it in terms of the fact that this is something that the average consumer doesn't even notice. So we take our role as a connector and a collaborator very seriously. We have a duty to Canada to provide safe, sound, and efficient systems that look out for the best interests of our users. This is part of our legislative mandate. To achieve this, we work very closely with stakeholders like you across the country to create the necessary balance of rules and standards. With modernization, we're working to provide a platform that allows those in the payments ecosystem to innovate and provide convenient, safe, and efficient payment options for Canadians. So let's talk about modernization. It's no secret that the payments landscape is changing in Canada and around the world. What we're experiencing today, many of us couldn't have even imagined just a few short years ago. Evolving technologies are offering Canadians new ways to communicate, connect, and conduct business, not to mention manage their lives. Consumers and businesses' needs and expectations for payments are evolving as well. Regulators have often enhanced safety and security requirements for critical infrastructure. And product service providers need to support convenient, flexible, simple payment experiences while maintaining security and protecting user information to stay competitive. At the same time, new players and technologies are entering the payments arena both in Canada and abroad. So besides financial institutions who continue to innovate, for example, in the mobile space and with check imaging, some of the world's largest and most innovative companies like Apple, Google, and Samsung are introducing payments products and services as well. And of course, as we heard this morning, disruptive technologies like blockchain are showing the potential to dramatically impact payments as well. Payments are being assimilated into the commerce experience. They are no longer a standalone commodity. Uber's a great example of this. It's all about making things easier and more convenient for the consumer. It's a key for businesses where the focus is on the service that they're providing, and the payment is just in the background. The experience really needs to be seamless. Around the world, investments are being made in payments infrastructure to support these changes. A number of countries such as Sweden, Singapore, and the United Kingdom have already implemented new systems. So while Canada is not on the leading edge, we're in the second wave of countries moving towards modernization. And there are some definite pros to that. We're well positioned to benefit from some of the lessons learned from their implementations, which could reduce our implementation costs and accelerate our timelines as well. A good example of this is ISO 20022. Much of the value of modernization is delivered by creating the capability for payment-related information to travel with a payment. This reduces the need for labor-intensive processes such as reconciliation. ISO has emerged as the global payments messaging standard and is considered an essential component of any modernization plan. So to date, 30 countries, including the US, the Eurozone, and Japan, are adopting ISO 20022, and Canada was able to learn from these experiences before we launched messages for our automated funds transfer system, which we published last year. So where are we on our modernization journey? The modernization journey in Canada is really marked by 4 stages that will take place over the next few years. First, we defined the vision for the Canadian payments ecosystem, something some of you may have been involved in. The vision demonstrated strong industry and stakeholder alignment on what a future payment system should look like. It identified the gaps in the marketplace, as well as the needs of payment system users and Canadians in general. And most importantly, it served as a foundation to guide our modernization journey and led us to the second phase, which was the development of the roadmap and high-level plan, which I'm going to talk to you a little bit about over the next few slides. Right now, we're currently in the 3rd stage of the modernization program, and that's defining the business rules and the requirements. And this is something that we're doing in consultation with our members and stakeholders through a collection of working groups. And these groups have been very instrumental to our planning. So this may be a familiar slide to some of you. The creation of the vision was really a cross-country consultation of organizations representing consumers, governments, financial institutions, and businesses to identify what a future payment system should look like. There was really strong alignment that a modern payment system should be fast, flexible, secure, promote innovation, and strengthen Canada's competitive position. So the vision is really characterized by 8 user needs and features, and they're here on this slide. So I'll quickly go through them because I think they're really, really important and fundamental, I think, to what we're doing. So faster probably speaks for itself to a degree. Canadians told us that they want to pay, and they want to be paid faster to minimize risks and costs. Data rich, also a really, really important and foundational element of what we're doing. Richer data with payments will help businesses move to electronic, move away from paper, take some of the mystery out of account statements, improve reconciliation. Our modernization plans include ISO 20022 across the board. Transaction transparency is also very important to a lot of consumers and businesses. They want better visibility into the status of their payments, notifications when a payment's received, notifications when something goes wrong with a payment, that sort of thing. Our system changes will enable that transparency. Of course, easier, I think that goes without saying. In today's world, everything needs to be easier. Easier payments, making a payment with something as simple or as easy as a Twitter handle, that's something that's in our future and will be enabled through the modernization program. So activity-based oversight is on here as well, and this is all about providing a safe and fair system that focuses on the services provided, not the institution that provides them. So our new systems will feature rules and regulations that are applied consistently, creating a level playing field. Open and risk-based access is something that we heard quite widely throughout our consultation. And our plan looks at fostering competition and innovation without compromising security through open and risk-based access to the payment system. So platform for innovation. I think that's probably the crux of it all and probably doesn't require a lot of explanation, but a modern payment system is a platform for innovation, bringing new and exciting ways for Canadians to pay. And the last one on there is cross-border convenience. And really that one's all about minimizing friction as money crosses borders, maximizing Canada's international trade and global competitiveness. So we didn't dream all this up. There was a series of inputs that fed into the development of the roadmap. The vision that we just went through, international research, the insights of our working groups, new requirements from our regulators, and our own internal operations. Where the vision told us what needs exist in the marketplace, our focus in the roadmap was on figuring out how Payments Canada and the industry can deliver on those needs. So to build this plan, we dove really deep into research, planning, and analysis with members and stakeholders. We have examined modernization initiatives in other countries, capabilities of in-market solution providers, approaches to funding, new global regulatory standards, and other opportunities to deliver on the needs outlined in the vision. So these insights all led to the Modernization Roadmap and High-Level Plan, which is the next major output on the Modernization Journey. Sorry, I should say was the next major output on the Modernization Journey. It was published last year. So I feel like I need a drum roll here, but this is basically the 5 pillars of the Modernization Plan. I'll go through them really quickly here, and then I have a slide or two a little bit further on to give you a little bit more detail on each pillar. So the first one, of course, is to build a new core clearing and settlement system to form the foundation for all other changes. Then we're going to establish a real-time capability that the industry can build on and leverage for new products and services. We're going to enhance our existing AFT, or Automated Funds Transfer batch system, to quickly and efficiently meet some very practical needs of users in the near term. We're going to align all of our new systems with global regulatory standards to ensure continued safety and security for all users. And then last but not least, we're going to modernize the rules framework to facilitate ongoing innovation. Underpinning all of these changes is the Global Payment Messaging Standard, ISO 20022, which will be leveraged for the high-value system, the real-time rail, and the AFT system, and will connect Canada with the rest of the world. So now I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on each of the pillars. So to begin, as I mentioned, we are going to be replacing our existing core clearing and settlement system, which is the LVTS. And this is really our big priority due to the LVTS's critical importance to Canada's payment system. The LVTS, for those of you that don't know, is our existing system that facilitates the near-time transfer of final and irrevocable domestic wire payments. And while the existing LVTS platform continues to perform well, it is aging technology. It's almost 20 years old. It was deployed in 1999. And in our view, it will not accommodate the significant changes that must be made to support the evolution of the other payment systems and meet future regulatory requirements. So we need to build a more modern, flexible, scalable replacement to accommodate new technologies. And so the new links, that's what we're calling it, will provide the foundation for payments modernization in Canada. So what does the links look like? We're in the middle of building out the exact requirements for the links, but I can share some of the early assumptions. So in terms of outcomes, we'll introduce a modernized high-value clearing and settlement system called links that can support Canada's current and future needs and fully observe all of the Bank of Canada's regulatory standards for systemically important payment systems. It's going to provide all of the functionality of our current LVTS system with some improvements, and also have the ability to layer in future enhancements. This pillar also includes the implementation of the settlement optimization engine. This is the system that is going to replace the ACSS. So the ACSS is our automated clearing and settlement system, and that's the system through which all of the retail payments in Canada are batched at the end of every day and entered. So things like think checks, EDI, point of service, AFT, they all clear and settle through the ACSS. So the settlement optimization engine will be introduced to replace the ACSS application, and it'll be used for clearing and multilateral netting of all of the retail payment products. It will have also improved automation and more efficient settlement of retail payments. So the new links will have best-in-class resiliency. It'll be able to adapt to future changes in technology. It will be able to support easier and quicker onboarding of new participants. It'll be capable of handling ISO 20022 payment messages with backwards compatibility for SwiftMT. And it'll have some new reporting bells and whistles, a dynamic dashboard for reporting on key metrics across participants. So in terms of the timeline, so this is a draft timeline for the implementation of links, and it should be noted that this timeline may evolve as we move through the procurement process. And it may be influenced also by the scope of the proof of concept that we're going to be conducting a little bit later this year. We've initiated a competitive dialogue with 3 potential application vendors, Sia Parago, Vocalink, and CGI, and we're currently meeting with these suppliers to continue to develop the business requirements and implementation assumptions for links. And these requirements and assumptions will be brought back to the industry through working groups for consideration and review. There will be a proof of concept phase for links, and that's going to happen over the summer, and then we plan to make a recommendation on the preferred supplier to the board of directors in November of this year. So let's move on to the second pillar. So this pillar, the real-time capability, is all about implementing an available system that delivers funds in seconds and will satisfy the needs identified in the vision, including real-time clearing, rich remittance information through ISO 20022, enhanced functionality to better serve consumers, small and medium-sized businesses. One important feature of the real-time rail is that it will support multiple overlay services. So these will provide many opportunities for innovation and creativity in end-user functionality. They could include solutions for person-to-person money movement, bulk payments, or bill payments. In terms of outcomes, the proposed utility will create an opportunity for broader industry players to introduce overlay services. It'll allow payors and payees, including consumers, corporates, governments, to send and receive payments instantly on a 24-hour basis, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, without needing to know the payee's account details. Initially, the RTR will support payments between Payments Canada members. However, the vision for the RTR is that it will provide open, risk-based access that will be able to respond to market needs. So participants would be able to leverage, participants that are non-members would be able to leverage the RTR utility to develop their own services for their customers. And these market overlays could include single credit transfers, bulk transfers, bill payments, any other value-added service. So again, some early assumptions are that this is going to be a system that's going to provide access to real-time credit push payments, 24/7 by 365. Payments Canada members that meet the technical and operational requirements and have access to settlement facilities at the Bank of Canada will be able to participate, and eventually members will be able to broker access for other non-member overlay service providers. And the RTR will allow different options for the addressability of payments through a simple proxy database, so that traditional institution number, branch number, and account can be used to route a payment, or more simply, an email address or a mobile phone number could be used as well. An RTR in Canada will have many benefits for financial institutions, merchants, and consumers by offering enhanced visibility into payments, by enabling better cash management and improving liquidity as well. So the timeline for RTR has not yet been fully fleshed out as we work through the process of defining the requirements for the utility and also establishing the criteria and a transparent process to assess the capabilities of an RTR utility service provider. So the next pillar that I want to talk to you about is enhancing the automated funds transfer system. So AFT, many in the industry refer to this as EFT, is really the batch payment system that's most commonly used for scheduled recurring payments such as payroll and pre-authorized debits. And we expect that the AFT system, which is a legacy system, will continue to operate for some time alongside the real-time rail due to the inefficiencies inherent in batch processing. So we will be enhancing the AFT system in a couple of stages. First, we're going to introduce an additional inter-FI exchange in the evening to support later cutoffs in Western Canada. This is a really, really important feature. It maybe doesn't sound like it's that complicated, but it's very important for businesses in Western Canada who today, due to the 4:30 p.m. Eastern Canada cutoff for AFT, when you back that up for financial institutions and companies on the West Coast, it really cuts their business day off around lunchtime. And we're also going to, in this first phase of change, require that members provide faster funds availability to pays for credits that are exchanged on the same day. In the second stage, we're going to mandate the use of ISO 20022 payment messages for AFT, and this will improve AFT's usefulness for certain business-to-business payments and allow companies to accelerate the move away from paper. So this slide here just gives you an idea of some of the timelines for AFT. So I mentioned the first wave of changes. That's going to be happening in mid-2018. We're targeting September of 2018 to implement the third exchange in the evening and the faster funds availability. And then the move to ISO 20022 for AFT payments, that is right now targeted for the end of 2019. So what we're working on right now includes, we've developed business requirements for the first stage of the changes. Members have confirmed their ability to deliver those changes. We're working on the rules to support those changes as well, and they'll be going to our board of directors in June next month. So I'm quickly going to go through the final two pillars, which in many ways connect to the first three. So the first, the global regulatory standards pillar, this is all about ensuring alignment with global standards. So for example, to meet the needs of a prominent payment system, which the ACSS has just recently been designated as a prominent payment system by the Bank of Canada. So to meet those requirements, changes must be made to the existing system in the near term, including the introduction of an ex-ante collateral pool. Other requirements that would be applicable to a prominent payment system will be incorporated when we replace the ACSS with the settlement optimization engine, which is connected with the implementation of the new links. So all modernized systems will need to meet global and regulatory standards. The introduction of the collateral and same-day settlement for real-time payments to meet regulatory standards obviously is an important outcome of this pillar, and as I mentioned, that is going to be fulfilled in the near term with the establishment of a collateral pool for the ACSS. The same-day settlement for real-time payments will be incorporated when the new settlement optimization functionality is rolled out. This pillar is also where our work on providing fair and risk-based access to the payment systems resides, and of course, ensuring that all new modernized solutions are supported by strong operational and legal framework. So in terms of the timelines and what we're working on right now, the ACSS interim credit risk model was circulated for consultation back in March, and feedback and comments have been received and incorporated. The tool that Payments Canada is building to support the pledging of collateral for the ACSS is underway, and direct clearers will be able to begin pledging collateral for their ACSS positions soon. And then last but not least, we need to develop a modern rule set for high value and retail payments so that our rules remain relevant and reflect current market practices. We need to maintain the appropriate balance between flexibility and compliance to foster competition and innovation. As Payment Canada's systems and technology are modernized to keep pace with the changing payments landscape, the role of the policy framework really can't be underestimated. So the overall outcomes for the legal pillar of modernization are to ensure that the appropriate amendments to the acts, bylaws, rules, standards, and policies that are required to support modernization are made in a timely manner and are able to support innovation across the payments value chain and maintain safety and soundness. And then with respect to the timeline, so this year we're continuing our work on the policy framework for modernization, which will feed into the legislative review planned for next year in 2018. At the same time, this pillar supports the development of rules for various pillars, so such as the regulatory pillar and the AFT, where rules development is already underway. And then also it's important to lay the groundwork for the development of new rules in the future to support the RTR, the settlement optimization engine, and the links. So this next slide just kind of gives you a bit of an overview of our current systems and framework and what that looks like. So you'll see that the ACSS, our Automated Clearing Settlement System, and the LVTS, the Large Value Transfer System, really kind of operate as two discrete clearing settlement systems. So the ACSS, all the little boxes around that middle box represent all of the different payment schemes whose end-of-day positions clear and settle through the ACSS. So members batch up those payments. They're exchanged bilaterally. They batch up those payments, enter them into the ACSS. At the end of the day, each individual payment scheme has its own rules and guidelines. And then the ACSS provides a multilateral net balance or clearing balance that's used to provide settlement, and the settlement is on a next day basis. The settlement position for the ACSS are extinguished on the next day using LVTS payments. So then the LVTS system, which is our wire payment system, important thing about the ACSS, of course, is that, the LVTS, is that it's used by the Bank of Canada to affect monetary policy, and most of the FMIs in Canada extinguish their end-of-day positions using LVTS payments. So it's a very, very critical to the infrastructure and the economy in Canada. So this slide just gives you a little bit of an overview or a schematic of what our future state will look like. So you'll see now that we have that blue circle in the middle, and that's really our core clearing and settlement system, which we're now calling links. And that's really going to be the foundation for everything. You'll still see the individual retail payment schemes sitting out there on the side in green, and they're still going to continue to exist in the short term anyway, largely as they do today. They'll continue to have bilateral exchange. Those positions, though, will now, instead of feeding into the ACSS at the end of the day, feed into the settlement optimization engine. We're going to provide the ability for an automated interface so our members can get those positions in without having to key them manually as they do today. And then that will kind of sit on the edge of the links. And then on the other side, you see the real-time rail as well, which we talked about, and then all of the kind of existing other FMIs and schemes that use the LVTS to settle their end-of-day positions would connect right into the links. So if you want to stay in the loop and stay in touch and follow our progress as we work through the modernization program, here's how you can do it. You can visit our website, so www.payments.ca/modernization. And if you scroll down to the bottom of that page, you can subscribe to Payments Canada's news and announcements. And that, if you do that, you'll also subscribe to The Exchange, which is a quarterly newsletter that we publish to keep the industry updated on modernization-related developments. And you can also always reach out to us at info@payments.ca if you have a specific question on modernization. And so we have some time left, so I'm happy to actually take some questions from the audience if anybody has any. Yes? Yeah.
Hi, Janet. Al Champsey from Meridian.
Hi, Al. How are you?
Good. How are you? Question I had was concerning ISO 20022 messaging.
Mm-hmm.
And I do understand that so that will replace CPA Standard 5. And it will be a requirement for us to provide members with access to that data-rich information.
Correct.
Through online banking, let's say. My question surrounds paper statements.
Okay.
If we provide member with paper statements, are we still required to provide that same level of detail through our online banking on those physical paper statements as well?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And the answer to that question really is that our rules require members to pass along any remittance information that they receive with a payment that comes along with the ISO payment to the end beneficiary or to the next instructed agent if there's a downstream partner involved in the transmission of that message. So really the answer to your question is yes. What we don't specify in our rules is how you pass that information along. So if you're dealing with like a corporate customer and the customer can take an ISO file, then that information would get passed along in ISO format. But if it's something like an account statement, you would take the remittance information from the ISO file and populate it in your statement, in your customer's account statement. If there's additional information, that needs to be passed along to the customer as well, but you can figure out how to do that. It doesn't have to be in the account statement. It can be provided to the customer through another channel. Are there any other questions? Yeah.
Hi there.
Hi.
The currently PADs or ACH payments, pre-authorized debits, the list goes on.
Yeah.
They're not a final they're not a final payment.
Correct.
Will they be after the modernization project? Will they become a real-time final payment, or will there still be a period where they can be disputed?
So, I guess the quick answer to that is no. So the underlying rules that are associated with each of the individual payment schemes is not necessarily changing, or at least not at the outset. So for example, an AFT debit transaction is not final and irrevocable. It can be returned NSF. It can be refused by the payor. That's not expected to change. I mean, those are some important consumer protections that are offered under our rules. Same with an AFT credit transaction. It can be error corrected if it's misdirected. Checks, of course, come with a whole variety of different recourse reasons and timeframes. That's not really expected to change. But what I think will change is that there will be a lot more options available for businesses and consumers to pick a payment method that aligns with the type of recourse that they need. If they need finality, then they're going to migrate to the links. They're going to migrate to the real-time rail for that payment finality.
Okay. Thank you. And
Okay.
Can I just ask one more question?
Sure.
Any cross-border payments coming into that whole project?
Well, I can say that the ISO 20022 messaging standard is definitely going to provide opportunities to facilitate cross-border payments. It's going to provide the ability for different jurisdictions to be able to talk to each other in the same language. Is that an actual solution to some of the issues that exist right now in the cross-border space? No. But I'm pretty optimistic that there's a lot of opportunities there. Even on the real-time rail, there's opportunities for cross-border overlay services.
I have a question.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, following that question previously, in the United States they have something called a drawdown or reverse wire.
Okay.
Are we going to have something similar in Canada where it's a wire initiated by one business to another business? You get good and confirmed funds same day.
Like a request for pay?
Yep.
Yeah. So not through the links. The link system. The links is a credit push solution, so we do already have that in our AFT system. There's the ability to do a pad or a debit pull electronically from somebody's account. It's not instantaneous though. But I do believe that, I mean, it's early days with respect to the requirements for the real-time rail, but there is the ability there in the real-time rail to have a request for pay type overlay or solution there as well.
Okay, thank you. I was looking more towards the irrevocable request, which is a great risk mitigation tool.
Yeah.
Not currently planned.
I'm not sure I have a really good answer to that question, so maybe I could take your card after.
Great, thank you.
Are there any other questions? That's okay if there's not. What that means is everybody gets a few minutes back to go enjoy the exhibit hall. So thank you very much for joining me to talk. I hope that you all learned a little bit more about our modernization journey and what it means to you. And we're happy to answer any questions. You can send them to that email address. They'll probably find their way back to me. Or if you see me around in the exhibit hall, or you can stop me, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. So thank you.